But first, every hour, another 20 people are diagnosed with diabetes in this country. That's according to a report released yesterday by the Canadian Diabetes Association. They call the report an economic tsunami, the cost of diabetes in Canada. The number of Canadians with the disease has almost doubled to 2.5 million in the past 10 years alone. By 2020, it's estimated that almost 10% of Canadians will have the disease.
Beyond the financial cost, of course, is a huge human cost. 67-year-old Louise Yurchak from Winnipeg knows that very well. When she retired from teaching at age 55, she decided to devote her time to educating people about diabetes. And that decision may have helped to save her life. Louise told her story to the CBC's Janice Grant.
With my Aboriginal background, I saw a lot of diabetes. In the foster home I was in, my foster mother was diabetic, and so were her two daughters, and decided maybe I could do something useful in an area I could feel comfortable in.
And shortly afterwards, you started to notice something about yourself. What was that?
Well, the description I gave my doctor was that I was over 60, I was female, Aboriginal, going to the bathroom a lot, sleep deprived from going to the bathroom a lot, and then he decided that we should monitor the blood a bit.
Do you think if you hadn't been so well educated about diabetes that maybe you would have missed those symptoms?
I think I would have. I would have just chalked it up to old age, which are common complaints of people over 60.
What kind of changes did you make?
Healthier choices of food. One of my downfalls is protein. And I wasn't counting my carbs and fast foods, which is the downfall of a lot of busy people, that kind of stuff. Start looking at a healthier way of eating. And the exercise, added another program in, which is I do exercise at least once a week now. I've lost the 40 pounds.
What kind of medications are you on?
I'm on metformin 3 times a day, and glycoside I just started on. That's not the proper way to say it, but anyway, this past month we've just started that, and it's managing well. I'm keeping my numbers well under 7.
Because you caught it early, and because you knew the signs, and because you've changed your lifestyle, you've managed to mitigate any of the big problems that can come with diabetes. But other people in your life haven't been that lucky over the years. Can you tell me a bit about some of them?
Well, my foster mother died at a very early age. She was 71, and she died of a stroke, heart problems. My sister, my foster sister, the one who passed away last year, died with all the severe symptoms of blindness and led to heart bypass, I should say, triple bypass. And then she had one amputation 2 years ago. Last year she had the second amputation, and her heart couldn't take it anymore, and just not healing, and she eventually passed on in February. That was all the severest symptoms that I had ever seen. It's a very bad disease to have, and some people are not aware of their symptoms, that some people live with diabetes for quite a while before the symptoms start to show, and some of them it's really bad by the time they get around to getting to the hospital and find that they end up on insulin. And like we were saying, some people don't take diabetes very seriously, but it's getting very serious, and I think we have to start paying attention to it, because everything that happens in our health system comes out of our pocket. And as a taxpayer, you're paying for the diabetes somebody else has, and I think people have to really get on it and start checking their own health for their diabetes, because there could be a lot of people that could save their own life by checking on their health.
That's Louise Yurchak. She's a type 2 diabetic. As Louise mentioned, she has taken her diabetes very seriously, changed her lifestyle, and has managed so far to avoid major complications.
But after that conversation, Louise told Janice about a family member who didn't. Her nephew, Jack Clark, needed a near-fatal wake-up call for him to take his diabetes seriously. It came in the form of a heart attack at the age of 36. Jack Clark's on the line now. Hi, Jack.
Hi there.
A heart attack at 36. What did it feel like? Take me to that when that happened to you.
Oh, well, when it actually happened, I had no idea what was happening to me. Because diabetics don't get classic symptoms, which is pain in your chest. I didn't have any pain in my chest whatsoever. I had a pain in my arm, in my shoulder, and down the right side of my back. And I wasn't short of breath. And the only reason I went to the hospital was because I almost passed out at one point. And I've been feeling that pain for about 15 minutes, and then I was about to leave work, and I was getting on the elevator, and that's when I almost passed out. And I figured, well, this something's really wrong here, and I decided to go to the hospital.
Now, you were first diagnosed as a diabetic at age of 30, I understand. So what symptoms did you have that told you something was wrong?
Well, there was the going to the washroom a lot, but mostly at first it was a rash I had that wouldn't go away, and then I was getting infections. Like I would get a pimple, and all of a sudden it would turn into a big boil, and my wife suggested, well, why don't you get tested for diabetes? And that's when I mentioned to my doctor, and my doctor ran a few tests, and we ascertained that I had high blood sugar.
Now, did you have any other risk factors? Like, I don't know whether or not you were overweight at the time or inactive?
No, I wasn't overweight, and I'm not overweight now. Well, like one thing I've been able to maintain is my weight, because I was pretty active back then.
Mm-hmm. How seriously did you treat your diagnosis then, before the heart attack?
Well, I didn't take it seriously at all, because they used the term borderline diabetic with me.
Now, I've heard that before. So how did they explain that to you? Because I've heard this before from doctors.
Well, they said I was a borderline diabetic, and that I had some time, like the diabetes wouldn't really kick in until I was like 50 or 60 years old. That's when it would really kick in. But because they used the term borderline, I didn't take it seriously. But you're either diabetic or you're not. There's no such thing as borderline. There's no in between. You are diabetic or you're not. And because they used the term borderline, I just didn't take it seriously. I let it go. I ate whatever I wanted. I didn't take the medication that they prescribed for me.
Now, since you had your heart attack and had the wake-up call, how has your life changed? How do you take care of yourself?
Oh, I eat a lot better. Exercise, I do a lot of walking. That is the best thing you can do for yourself, is to exercise, whether you're diabetic or not. But for me, when I was working, on my lunch, I would go for walks for at least half an hour, sometimes 45 minutes.
Are you on insulin now too?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm taking quite a bit of insulin.
We're kind of glad your Aunt Louise ratted you out, I must say, because I think there's some lessons in your story. But what do you hope people can learn?
What I hope is that people get educated about what a diabetic is, because there's a type 1, type 2, and type 2, and I'm type 2. But I have had a coworker pass away who was type 1, and they originally diagnosed him as type 2, and we found out after he died that he was actually type 1. So, and he was scared when he found out he was diabetic, but he too didn't treat it like he should have. And when I first started taking the medication, I thought I was having a bad reaction to the medication. I wasn't having a bad reaction. I was just not used to the low blood sugar. And when I say I had low blood sugar, it was probably normal, a normal level, rather than, because I was so used to it being high all the time.
Lots to learn in this. Jack, thank you.
Thank you.
Jack Clark was diagnosed with diabetes at age 30. He had a heart attack at age 36.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had an aunt and an uncle both die of diabetes, and my uncle, it was really quite profound. He suffered blindness. He had both of his feet amputated. He had really bad diabetes. My aunt had diabetes, and she died of a heart attack. I mean, she was well into her 70s, but still.
In my family, I'd like a doctor to write to us and tell us why they continue to use the term borderline. I have this in my family, and I've had numerous different doctors use that term with people over the years. Is it useful or not? And what's behind it medically? Why is that still being around? Is Jack right that there's no such thing as a borderline diabetic? I can't answer that question. Radio 893 at cbc.ca if you can.